Tonight on Sport, part one of a profile of New Zealand women's track cycling team member Katie Schofield.
Right, the life and times of Katie Schofield. Let's start from the very beginning. Born in Dunedin?
No, I was actually born in the States.
Right, tell us that story, how your parents came to be there.
They are originally New Zealanders. They went over on a OE to America, ended up staying there for 14 years. My brother and myself were born there in Chicago, and then we all came back when I was about 8, and Dad got a job at the University of Otago.
So you'd remember the States quite vividly?
Yep, so being 8 years, went through kindergarten and I think first 2 years of elementary school. A lot of memories about the snow and the hot weather, yeah.
You didn't pick up an American accent though, or if you did, you've shaken it off.
I have shaken it off. I remember when we first came to New Zealand, Dad knew a guy that could record voices, and we did some talking of American accents, yeah.
Can you still reproduce it?
Oh, no, not really. There's some words, like just, for example, that I tend to roll my R's a bit, so a lot of people think I am from Southland.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't mind that. We'll claim you. So what about, I know it's the early days, but did you play any sport in the States, even at that young age, or was it just backyard stuff?
Yeah, no, I was a keen gymnast. So when I first got here to New Zealand, Mum and Dad put me into a gymnastics school in Dunedin. So I did that quite competitively. And then when I was about 12, I broke my knee doing the exercise, which kind of ended that. But during that time, I was doing track and field.
Right, that's when you started track and field, was it?
Yeah, that's when I fully committed myself to track and field.
Right.
Yeah.
Were your parents sporting?
No, Dad's into windsurfing and golf. Mum's into golf too, but no, not really. I had a great aunt that was a really good sprinter back in her day, so yeah.
On mum or dad's side?
On my mum's side, yeah.
So why did they settle in Dunedin? What was there?
Basically, Dad got a job at Otago. Dad grew up in Otago as well.
Right.
So,
okay. So
yeah.
it was sort of family background home.
Yeah.
And what schooling did you have there?
In Dunedin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to the Tahuna Intermediate and then went to Bayfield High School.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was track and field. When did you start competing?
Competing, I was kind of always involved when I was quite young, just the Saturday morning races that we had, and then decided to get quite serious with it when I was in intermediate school and then secondary school as well.
And we're talking running?
Yep, so sprinting, 100 metre and 200 metre mainly, yeah.
Right. And what about, so Otago representation, did you get to that level, that age group quickly?
Yep. So we had a lot of inter-provincial competitions. In what age would that be? That would be in my primary school days. And then also Otago champs and stuff like that in high school. Yeah.
And you had good success, kept you in there?
Yep. And then when I got to that stage, we started going to nationals as well. Yeah.
First major win, what would you claim that as?
I never got a national title.
Did you not get one? No, you were so close.
No, I was always second or third. And in my last year of high school, I got a chance to go to Oceanias, and got second and third in that for 2 of those events. But yeah, it was always second.
Still, that's quite prestigious. So what was the plan on leaving school, to pursue a track career still?
Yeah, I was more quite into my academics. So after high school, decided to do a degree at University of Otago. So I ended up doing human nutrition, as well as physical education. And then loved that so much that I decided to do a master's in physical education as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And have you had a chance to apply those skills?
Yeah, so my major in PE or physical education was in sports science, so a lot of training, adaptations and nutrition as well, I've been able to put forward into my training.
And what about the transition to the bike? Did you cycle at all before, or just for fitness or for fun before you took it up as a sport?
No, I didn't. I had an injury with my knees with running, which eventually ended up me stopping running and going to cycling. I bought a road bike just for rehab. Had that for I think 6 months, and then.
Was there any relationship between when you broke your knee as a child? Was it a recurring injury? Did you have a weakness of that?
Yeah, just with a lot of the impact with running. It wasn't, and I wasn't getting much faster as well in terms of my times, and kind of needed a new direction, and that's when track cycling came in.
Right. So how did you get from the road bike rehabilitation onto a velodrome type of situation?
I was still training quite hard in the gym, and so I was working with Angus Ross, who's a strength and conditioner now for Bike NZ. He suggested that I try and do a peak power test in the lab, which just basically measures how much force you can put through your pedals, and that was pretty good according to him. So that's when we looked at avenues to try find a coach and get me involved in it in Dunedin.
Right. And what sort of age were you when this was happening?
Oh, don't ask me. Then I'll be able to work out my age.
Just roughly. Early 20s, late teens?
Early 20s.
Okay, let's do early 20s was good. Because that's to start a sport. That's quite late, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very late.
But we saw with Alison Shanks, you have a netball, and then she switched quite late. So it's absolutely possible, isn't it?
Yep, it is possible.
You proved that.
Yeah.
All right. What was the first competitive race you had as a track cyclist?
It was in Timaru. They have a New Year's Day kind of carnival.
Right.
Around there, it was flat, real flat track. The first time I got a speeding ticket on the way as well, so I remember it quite well. So that was my first real race.
And did you win?
No, I didn't win.
That's all right, that's it.
No.
But enough inspiration to think you're quite good at this.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. So I think that's what allowed me to keep going. Yeah, so that was probably a month of just trialling on the bike in the Mosgiel velodrome.
Right.
Then, did that race in the new year, and then competed in nationals in February, that following year.
Right. That's a quick transition, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And what happened at the nationals? Did you?
I got a few, I think, like 6th and 7th.
Right.
So I thought, this is not too bad for only being on the bike for 3 months. So.
Were they in Invercargill?
Yeah.
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 So you're starting to think, I might have to do this seriously, do you?
Yeah, I thought, if I can be 6th or 7th with little training and little experience, imagine what I could be with a year under my belt.
So how long did it take before you were from going 6th to 7th to be in the first 3? Was it 12 months, 2 years?
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And how did you work out what you would specialise in?
Basically just crossover from track and field. They're very similar, sprinting.
So sprinting.
Yeah.
Same physical makeup, isn't it? Same thing.
Yep.
So, what about the training methodology? Completely different?
No, the training principles are pretty similar.
All about power?
All about power, all about speed, and over a short duration with long recovery. So I found the transition of training very easy. The hardest thing for me is having other riders on the bike, on the track, anywhere, and running they're all in their own lane.
That's right.
Yeah, so I found that the hardest thing. Yeah.
And was it daunting when you first went out there, or you just enjoyed the challenge, perhaps?
I enjoyed the challenge. Daunting, yes, with the steepness of the banking, but I just, my coach at the time just got me around the top the first time I was on the bike, and apparently that's quite an achievement. But I wasn't to know.
Yeah. Have you had any mishaps? Because you'll be injury conscious, of course, after your early.
Yeah, a few mishaps in terms of I had a year off with a back injury.
Was that from a fall or just from?
No, just from training. and other mishaps are just crashes, but
Nothing to put you off.
nah.
All right, so how did you become under the eyes of the national squad selectors? What was the performance that you think caught their eye?
I was struggling to kind of get into a squad at first, but just kept what's the word? Nudging away at it. I guess the performance would have been at one nationals where I got a third and a second, and then I got invited to a few camps during the winter, and then got asked to go to a Sydney Grand Prix,
Right.
which was last year. So
Okay, so you started to break in only within the last 12 months.
yeah.
So, but after 2 or 3, so it's taken a while. This is not overnight success, is
Yeah,
it? This is hard yakka.
Yeah.
So, a national title cycling.
Yeah, I got my first national title this year.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I knew that.
Yeah, in the 250 metre standing start, so it's just one lap.
Right. Yep. And that's suits you down to the ground, doesn't it? The shorter the better, isn't it? With
Yep.
your skills, you know. So that must have been a nice achievement to know all that work. You've actually got something to show for it, even though it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah, it was something that I really wanted to achieve and wanted to break a record, which I did as well. So, and that kind of solidified my spot as a starter for the team sprint.
Okay.
So, and that's what I was wanting.
So what was the plan, Olympics in mind, given that relatively short time ago you're just making your mark on the international scene? What was the plan to get to the Olympics?
So the plan, well, the Olympics wasn't really even in the plan to start with.
Right.
We did Oceanias last year and broke the record for team sprint there, which got us a spot for the Beijing World Cup in January. We broke it there again, and then we went to London, and that's when it was kind of, we could almost qualify for London Olympics, I should say. So we did well in London. We improved our time again.
Just explain who we is for our viewers.
Oh, sorry, Natasha Henson.
Yeah,
and
so it's just
myself.
two-person team, right?
Yeah, two-person team. So then we competed in World Champs, and so with World Champs we had to be at least 3 spots ahead of Venezuela to take the top 10th spot for the teams that go to the Olympic Games.
And explain what happened.
Well, basically I didn't have a very good start at all. I slipped my back wheel, which cost us about half a second of our time.
Which is a long time.
Which is a long
these
time
short
in,
races,
in sprinting terms, yeah. And so we ended up being 1 spot ahead of Venezuela,
Right.
which wasn't enough to give us enough points to then qualify for the Games.
But the door's not closed yet, we should say that.
Yeah, there is a slight chance.
Tell us the permutation that can make it possible still.
So if there's 10 teams that have been selected for the Games, and each country has to put in that they will be sending a team sprint team to the Games. If one of those teams pulls out or cannot compete, then New Zealand has the first reserve spot to then compete. So that's when I can race in the Games.
So you have to, in the meantime, keep training as if you might be.
Yep, exactly. Which is kind of hard to do, but it's good when I've got a good support group around me that helps me do that. And with Tash going to the Games as well, it's good to have her and push her along as well.
Obviously a disappointment not to make it, but when you look back, you think, well, I was only on the international scene a year and suddenly I was on the verge of Olympic. I mean, that in itself is it's a fantastic achievement. You've got to be proud of that.
Oh, I'm very proud, and not many people get to be in that situation, so I was very happy to even have the opportunity to even do that. Yeah, and it's not over yet. We're still building up for next year's World Champs, and then we've got Com Games and Olympics after that.
Because you're only in your mid-20s. So there is time. More than peak sports people peak later these days, so there's plenty of time for you to make another Olympics.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
It's a positive plan, isn't it? So what for you now, work-wise? Is it full-time cycling, or do you get to use your education as well?
I have taken away from my job. I was working for SIT actually, teaching a distance learning paper. So I've taken leave from that till after the games to just fully concentrate on cycling, which is, I'm really enjoying just having one thing to focus on at the moment. And it's been really good.
And to be, all the other athletes have only got one thing to focus on, haven't they? You need to be on that same level playing field.
Yeah, and it's not just about having the time to train, it's having the time to recover and really looking after yourself as well, and that's a big part of it.
And when you're not cycling, what do you like to do?
When I'm not cycling, I'm quite into my art and into my drawing, so that's what I do on my downtime, and just catching up with people. Yeah.
So immediate plans though, after the next, say, 4 weeks, what's laid out for you?
So we are going to Europe. I leave next week, and we first stop is in Newport in Wales. We spend 2 weeks there training, and then we go.
This is New Zealand squad?
Yeah, this is our female sprint squad. We're going to Wales, and then we meet the sprint boys in Valencia in Spain for 3 weeks, and then we're going to Germany for racing. Yeah.
Exciting times.
Very exciting.
Times. All the very best with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.